Vox and the New York Times have an interesting article out on the shifting drug war and what's led to the shift slowly away from criminalization, throwing people in jail, being aggressive, viewing it as a problem that you have to hit with a hammer as opposed to some form of treatment. So they report the following, quote, public officials have by and large responded to the ongoing opioid, painkiller, and heroin epidemic with a softer approach than previous drug crises. Part of that is states trying to save money after decades of expensive, tough-on-crime policies. But some critics have pointed to two very different factors, race and class. Interesting theory. They say, take, for instance, this quote from a police officer. Eric Adams, a white former undercover narcotics detective, is deployed full-time now to reach out to people who have overdosed and help them get treatment. He said, quote, the way I look at addiction now is completely different. I can't tell you what changed inside of me, but these are people and they have a purpose in life, and we can't, as law enforcement, look at them any other way. They are committing crimes to feed their addiction. Plain and simple. They need help. Really fucking interesting. So think about how this guy is speaking about it when it's middle class or even upper class white people addicted to opioid painkillers and then they get into heroin. That's how they speak about it in that respect. And then how did they speak about it back when it was the crack epidemic in black neighborhoods? Did they say, oh, these are people, they have a purpose in life, and they have to get treatment, they need help, it's that simple, they're only committing these crimes because of this sickness, which is why they need help. No, they were like, arrest them, lock them up, throw away the key, these are monsters, these are bad people, this is terrible decision-making, you name it. So look at the difference. Now, it's not, don't get me wrong, guys, it's not the only factor involved, there's a variety of factors involved. But it is interesting to note the differences between how the problem is talked about when it's mostly poor black people versus if it's middle class or upper class white people. All right, let me continue here. They say, research published by the Journal of the American Medical Association Psychiatry shows that nearly 90% of people who began using heroin in the previous decade were white. The history of past drug epidemics also tells the story. During the 1970s and 1980s, federal and state lawmakers reacted to the heroin and crack epidemics of those times with punitive tough-on-crime policies, including the launch of the war on drugs. And those older epidemics primarily hurt lower-class minority groups in urban areas, not the middle-class and wealthier white people in rural and suburban places, mostly hurt by the opioid epidemic of today. All right, so there you have it, man. Now look, there's no denying that this is still, either way, a step in the right direction. We just need to let this mindset, force this mindset to also apply to poor black people. There's nothing wrong with the comment of the officer. In fact, the comment of the officer is 100% right. If somebody really is addicted to drugs and they're committing all these different crimes and stuff, yeah, that's a person. That person has a cause in this life. They have a family. They have friends. They have people who care about them and love them. They care other people. They have a problem. They do need help. You know, this isn't something that you lock somebody up in a jail cell. But that same mindset needs to apply to poor black people, too. They're people. I mean, it sounds fucking crazy that I have to bring this up and say this, but it's true. And unfortunately, we have a system that does look at poor black people differently than they look at upper class or middle class white people. And remember, this isn't just a race thing, it's also a class thing. So poor whites in rural areas, they also are much more likely to get the harsher approach where if they're addicted to crystal meth or some shit, lock them up, throw away the key, much less treatment because they're poor. So this is also a class thing, a heavy class thing, along with a racial aspect to it as well. But either way, look, it's progress in the sense that maybe it was going to take this to change the drug war. Maybe it was going to take, you know, rich white people or middle-class white kids dying of opioid pills and heroin to make people go, oh, shit, we've had the wrong approach to drugs all along. When it was just drug problems among poor blacks, well, you know, you could look the other way, don't pay attention, we don't care. But when it's people in your own community, oh my God, we need to do something about this, and we need to be smart about how we address it. We can't just sweep it under the rug by treating it like a crime and punishment situation. So it's a step in the right direction, but now the move is make this mindset apply to poor whites and poor blacks, and make it so that the system is totally changed. At the very least, decriminalize drugs at a national level. I would like it if they legalize, tax, and regulate. And for sure, for the small percentage of people, but the percentage of people that get addicted and do end up committing crimes and can't control themselves on the drug, they need treatment. As Dr. Carl Hart says, 80 to 90% of people who take drugs are moderate users, and they keep their shit together and they go to their job and it's whatever. It's just like anybody who drinks some alcohol every now and then. But for the small percentage of people who can't keep it together and they have problems, get them the help that they need, and that should apply to everybody and not just rich whites.